Hi everyone. So I thought I'd just do a quick recap of the hearing that we just had. I'm sure a few of you are expecting that already. So thanks for quickly jumping on with me. So the Annunciato case was just heard in Northern California District Court, I believe it is, with Judge Seaborg. I thought it went extremely well. The lawyers had agreed that Charles Cook would speak for the legal team. Remember, this legal team is about Bundik's first name. So this is a case brought by the firms of Cook, Siskind, and Joseph, right? And I think they're calling their firm now, or their relationship, the joint effort of that impact law. Anyway, that's basically what they've done. Now, what were they trying to get? And I agree, Graham. I think Chuck Cook was very good, very impressive. We'll talk about that in a moment. So good morning, Denise. So they were trying to achieve a couple of things. Firstly, they were trying to get PP 10014. It's possible, and perhaps I would say even likely, that Biden is going to remove that ban anyway. But it's important that this Annunciato case, it continues just in case he doesn't, right? And so that's an important thing. Who does it help if PP 10014 is immediately removed? Who does that immediately help? Well, it would help particularly the people who got DV 2020 visas issued last September, and those visas would expire by March. Okay, there are some people whose visas have already expired because they had short medical length of time. Those will need to be helped separately. But for the majority of people that got their visas issued in September, they will have dates of expiry sometime in March, between the beginning of March and the end of March, probably mid to late March. So that's the main thing that they're looking for. And also, removing PP 10014 would help, or at least remove one barrier that is probably stopping the DV 2021 cases as well. So that's important. The other things that they were trying to get done was for DV 2021 cases, an instruction, if you like, to the embassies to begin work, and also to KCC to actually start the processing of cases, processing and adjudication, and issuances where necessary. Now that part of the argument, so the removing PP 10014 hinges on whether or not you believe the president had the authority to ban all immigration, which is effectively what he did. And the arguments that Charles Cook was making was effectively that the president overstepped his authority, did so without any justification or findings. They talked about findings. And it's and also is against the will of Congress. So Congress has established laws that control immigration and have taken into account factors, all sorts of factors, and they've got some rules, right? We should abide by those rules. The president made the case that he's got the power to stop all immigration, but without saying why. And who in particular. It's a very broad position to take. And whilst some court cases have said he does have broad authority, he needs to have some reasons. He needed, when he issued this proclamation, he should have had some reasons. In other cases, there's been some reasons, right? So one thing is removing PP 10014. The other thing would be instructing the embassies to get on with DV 2021 work, right? And the legal team have a number of plaintiffs, people who have paid their money to be represented, by the law firm, but they're also asking for a class certification that would cover everybody by the same thing, by the same decision, which is what was achieved in the Gomez case, which also sort of provides protection for the related cases, Acker and Fong Jong and Mohammed and to some extent Kennedy, although Kennedy came later. So class certification is an important thing because it means that the way one person is treated that is actually paid the law firm some fees would be the same way that somebody else would be treated. There may be a preference, there may be a prioritization for the named plaintiff, but nevertheless, the outcome or the benefit of the judge's decision should be for everybody. That's what that says. And I'm very impressed and thankful that they are asking for class certification as opposed to just focusing on the number of clients that they get, etc. So what's going to happen next? Well, the judge is going to have to take everything under consideration. He obviously listened attentively to Charles Cook's extremely well-made arguments. I thought Charles did extremely well. And frankly, Charles Cook, has the winning argument because, certain parts of this decision, for example, the government not issuing visas, not doing any work because of the entry ban, that's already been shown as being illegal several times. So that's a very persuasive argument, and it should be pretty easy to get that one, that one blown apart. But the PP 10014, that's harder to remove. So we might get some sort of split decision here. Although I have to say, I thought the arguments from Charles Cook were extremely impressive, and Valerie Smith for the government, not quite so much impressive, shall we just say. I don't want to be disrespectful, but she's got a horrible position to defend for a start, and I just didn't hear anything persuasive from her. And when she was asked direct questions by the judge, I don't think she responded in the way that he had to really work to get her to respond to simple questions. I was quite surprised at that. But as I say, she's a qualified lawyer, and she's probably a very decent person, and she's got a crappy job having to defend Trump's policy. So I don't want to be disrespectful of her. And even though we saw her email address, I wouldn't want anybody to contact her or upset her in any way. It wouldn't be fair. She's just doing her job, and it's a sucky job because she worked for a sucky president that now thankfully is gone. Right. So leave her alone. Okay. So let me see if I can sort of grab some of these questions that I'm no doubt getting. Right. Let's see. Well, visa bulletin is going slowly. Yes, it's going slowly because nobody's being interviewed. The way that the visa bulletin progresses is a feedback loop of how many people are getting their visas, how many in each quarter, as Charles Cook actually explained today, how many people have got their visas, and therefore how much work there is left to do. It's going slowly because still the first number of visas that should have been interviewed by now have not been issued because they're not doing any interviews. So it's not a surprise that it's going slowly. I don't know why people are surprised. I'm surprised it moved at all, frankly. So there you go. I think Judge Seabrook will wait until the 29th of the month. I believe they'll remove the ban. Cook was like Rocky Balboa at the court. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Mehmet. I agree with everything you said there. I don't think Seaborg is going to come back with a fast judgment. No judge wants to come back with a fast judgment only to have that made moot by Biden removing PP 10014 just days later. Why expose himself to that sort of challenge? So I would not expect us to get a judgment out of this Annunciato case until after the 29th. But I'm very glad that the seeds and the argument, the seeds have been sown, the arguments have been made. And I think on balance, for those of you that watched this, you would probably agree with me that that our side won, if there is such a thing, in terms of the persuasion of the arguments. Okay, there was just nothing to combat it. Danila is, please Spanish. Lo siento, no puede hablar español muy bien. Mi esposo es de España, pero mi español es muy mal. Mucho peor de Charles. Lo siento. Zero Life says, the best legal argument I've watched in my life. How long will the decision take? So I think about 2 weeks. But it could take longer, so don't quote me on the 2 weeks. But I think it's going to be, today is the 22nd. There are immigration-related executive actions that will be signed on the 29th. We don't know which ones yet. We don't know what Biden is going to do, but he has said that he's doing different things on different days. So the climate one day, jobs another day, COVID another day. He's doing different things on different days over a schedule over the first 10 days or so of his presidency. And he's already said that on the 29th, he's going to deal with some executive orders and actions that he'll take over immigration. And that would be separate to the bill that he's already sent to Congress. So that's a big important date. And I don't think we're going to get an answer before that from the lawsuit, right? Okay. Yeah, the people stuck in Mexico, I know. I wish people hadn't. I understand why they did, and I was conflicted about that, but I know some people did actually go to Mexico to sort of wait out the Schengen bans prior to the 1st. I had suggested there was time between the 1st and the 20th to have done that, and I was suggesting waiting, but nevertheless, there are people who are in, it's not a horrible position because you're in Mexico, you're having a comfortable life, but I'm sure it's expensive, it's difficult for you, and you're waiting. And I can't imagine that. I'm sorry you're going through that. What are the chances for 2021 winners? Well, we'll have to wait and see. I've told so many people, wait and see. My favorite phrase of wait and see. I say that because I'm smart, right? I say wait and see because I'm smart enough to know when I can't predict something. And it's not that I don't want to help and predict things. I do want to help, but I know that the predictions that I could make right now would be based only on mathematic calculation, and that's not going to help anybody because the factors that that will drive this year's lottery are not to do with math. They're to do with COVID and the embassies being closed and the bans and you name it, right? There's all this other stuff going on, and so I can't predict the chances. So I'm sorry, every time somebody asks me to make any sort of prediction, I say no because I'm not stupid, right? That's basically the reason why. This is so sad. Biden is not interested in lifting bans. So Rebecca, his mind is made up, do you? I don't know where you get your source of information. I don't know that, but there you go. Yeah, exactly, Bendix. You think why government's attorney defended from PP 10014? If you're asking Parser why was she defending it, well, that's her job. Okay, and for any of you that have ever taken on debating, for example, it's important that someone who is debating a position can debate both sides of the argument. Any good arguer can do that, right? Any good debater can do that. Any good lawyer should be able to do that. So I don't know whether Ms. Smith actually believes in what she's saying or is just trying to represent a position. I don't really care. That's not important. So she was arguing the position of the government as she knows it to be based on what Trump did, because that's her job, right? We shouldn't hold it against her. I don't think she did it very well, but that's because it's a crappy position to have to defend. Ragged is asking, can applying for the DV lottery can affect your chances to get an F1 visa? Right. The position is this. Entering the lottery does not affect any future non-immigrant application you make. Sometimes when you're making a non-immigrant application, they will ask you, have you entered the lottery? They actually shouldn't ask you that, but sometimes they will. And they're trying to ascertain whether you've got a non-immigrant intent, you've got immigrant intent. In other words, intention to emigrate into the USA. And if you're applying for a non-immigrant visa, they might say, well, you clearly will just stay there after your visa is run out, and therefore we're not going to give you this F1 visa or J1 or whatever it is. Now, applying for the lottery, like just entering the lottery, shouldn't cause that. The government have talked about this in various papers. Filing your DS-260 after winning can cause that that suspicion that you'll try and stay, immigrant intent. Now, it's not the only factor, so it shouldn't mean that you automatically get denied on F1 visas or any other non-immigrant visa, but it's one of the factors they'll take into account, which is why I tell people every year, and every year people ignore me, but it's why I tell people every year, if you've got a high case number, don't file your DS-260 too quickly, because you may never get current, and you may therefore have declared immigrant intent for no reason. Okay, so so I don't know what position you're in, Rugged, but there you go. Mohammed, I've already sent to you from application form 2018 this name. Mohammed, you seem to be talking as if I'm the guy that hands out the visas and you sent me an application form. I'm not that guy. I don't know who you sent a form to, and I'm not able to just hand out visas. I wish I could. When will they remove PP10014? I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll wait over the next couple of weeks. A lot of things are happening over the next couple of weeks, right? So wait and see what happens. Nuestros abogados son excelentes. Yeah, I thought they did an excellent job. And we need God. Well, God's not really a lawyer, but I'll rely on the lawyers. Do you think AF28K has a chance to get interviewed? This is typical of the sort of predictions. I can't predict. It depends when they start. If they didn't start interviews until September 1, then you'd have no chance, right? There's just not enough time. But so it depends when they start. So I can't predict. And I'm not saying they're not going to start interviews until September 1. I'm just making the point that the amount of time that we have left, based on when they start, is a factor in this. And it's not important what your number is. It's just a general point I'm making, So you have to wait and see. That's all we can do. Lundy says, long time no see. Yeah, it's been a couple of days. Here we go. Want to know, when will the diversity results be out? They'll be out in March, Regina. Sorry, not March. Did I say March? May, early May. The same date that was pointed out on the instructions when you entered the lottery. Pastor says, it seems to be great. What's your expectation? Do you have any idea? I don't know. Like I said earlier, if it were me, if I were the judge, I would say that the arguments on our side made by Charles Cook are more persuasive, have more basis in law. They're right. They're absolutely right. We should win this. Will we win this? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Heard some information. Biden order embassy that to resume service. Is that true? So what you're referring to, Wand Watson, is the revocation of the Muslim ban the other day, which was the original Muslim ban version 3, plus the subsequent countries that were added to that. There were a number of bans that were all classed together as Muslim ban. That was revoked on day 1, and in that revocation instruction, the order that Biden signed, Biden instructs the embassies to do certain things, to provide a report on cases that were previously turned down and could be reconsidered, but that would need to be within the current fiscal year, right, which won't apply to any cases under DB 2020, unless we win the Gomez case, right? So be a little bit careful there. It's more for family-based, etc. But also there was an instruction to start doing that sort of work. So that's an instruction to do the work on the Muslim ban cases, but it doesn't overcome the COVID restrictions there are at the embassies. So it doesn't mean that all cases are going to be interviewed. It's quite narrow in relation to the Muslim ban cases, and even for those, it doesn't mean that the embassies will start doing that work. After this hearing, is there a chance for DV 2020 visa holders to join US before expiration? Well, we'll see, Adam. That's what we're asking for. We'll have to see what the outcome is. Can't they just instruct KCC to make all cases count for 2021? And where embassies are open, people get processed. At least there'll be more visas that way. Yeah, I've had a lot of people say that. The way that, if you study the way the DV lottery process law is written, it talks about the rank order as being important to the processing order of the cases. That a lower case number, that's what rank order is, a lower case number should be processed and should be adjudicated before other cases. Now, there's some flexibility about that within the same month, but basically they're saying you don't just start off at the beginning of the year making everybody current, right? So number one, there's a law that says how the thing is supposed to operate. Number two, if you made all the cases current, it would be chaos, right? And clearly it would not be helpful for KCC to suddenly have all of these cases current. It would just be chaos. We wouldn't be able to tell which cases are ready for interview, which are not ready for interview. It would just be chaos. I accept that there are some people that would be helped by that, Chris. Generally speaking, that would be advantageous to high case numbers in low volume countries, but it would be a bloody mess. It would be a complete mess, and it would not be according to the way the law is written. So I get why you're asking that, and everybody, is making that argument, and I understand the argument, but I don't think that will happen. Now, having said that, who knows what they'll do this year? They may do that. So I can't say it won't happen. But the conditions don't exist for that to happen. Let me put it that way. The other thing is, what does being current mean? Well, being current means that the KCC and the visa office have determined that there is more visas left than the remaining demand. That clearly is not the case this year. We've got more people who want the visas than we have visas. We've got, last year there were only 83,000 selectees, and therefore, things got current pretty early. This year, there's 132,000 selectees. 15,000 of those selectees were banned by the Muslim ban. They're now unblocked, right? So we've got the full number, 133,000 or whatever it is. And there's only 55,000 visas, right? So you can't make the case that that there are more visas available than there are people who need them. So the conditions don't exist to make any of the regions current. I get why you're asking, but it shouldn't happen. Will it happen? I don't know. We'll have to see. Do you think the judge will extend fiscal year 21? Now, this is interesting. This is the same sort of thing that we are arguing for DV 2020, kind of an extension of the year, but it's not really an extension of the year because it involved sort of pre-allocating some number of visas before the end of the year. So before DV 2020 ended, Judge Mehta set aside 9,095 visas. He didn't just say you can continue issuing visas, right? So we would need another lawsuit to achieve this, or an act of Congress, right? So will he do that? No judge has just extended the year like that. Judge Mehta didn't just extend the year, but could he, towards the end of the year, be asked to set aside some additional visas? Yeah, it's possible, but I don't know, for a fact that will happen. I suspect we'll need another lawsuit. Fauzan says, Fauzan from Sri Lanka. My question is, there any possibility PV 2020 winners who are waiting for the interview Okay, so this question is for remaining cases of DV 2020 that were not interviewed, you will have to wait for the outcome of the Gomez case, right? So this Annunciato case doesn't cover you, doesn't help you at all. You have to wait. You're all covered by Gomez, and there's 9,095 visas set aside. But whether they'll be allowed to be issued or not is a decision that will be made in March, right? And probably the end of March is when we'll hear about it. The final hearings are set for mid-March, so allow a bit of time for for that to happen. So you'll have to wait until then, and I can't predict exactly who will get a chance, who will be lucky enough to get one of the 9,000 visas. I don't know how it's going to operate. Nobody does. Okay. Charles Cook did best to him. Yeah, kudos to him. I agree. So DV 2020 case number 69,000 AF. Is there a chance of being called for interview? You have to wait and see. You're obviously at risk, Martin, because your case number is relatively high and we're running out of time. But even if it weren't running out of time, your case number is still pretty high. So you'll just have to wait and see what happens. You obviously would be helped if they did make all the regions current, or at least Africa. Yeah, I agree with you, Bundex. That's the right way to say it. He doesn't have the authority to extend the fiscal year. Only the Congress could do that. But he would have the authority, similar to what Meta did, to set aside some visas. But Meta, of course, is still trying to figure out whether he's really got the authority to force the government to issue those visas. That is what we don't know yet. So he set them aside. He kept us alive, right? But we don't know what the final outcome will be yet. Yeah, the fact that Ashraf, yes, it was deleted from the White House government page because they trashed everything that that was on Trump's page. Obviously, thank goodness. But it's still in effect, whether it's on the White House page or not. It's still in effect, Ashraf. Somalia. Is there a possible way that the new administration will reconsider already refused diversity visas? Right, so here's the situation there, Abdullah. For 2017, 2018, 2019 cases, no possibility. Those years are gone, all right? And DV 2020 may be possible if you're a DV 2020. If you're a DV 2020, it may be possible, but only if the Gomez case wins. If that happens, then someone who is refused prior to April, based on the Muslim ban, might be able to get their case re-adjudicated and therefore issued from those final 9,000 visas. But I'm not certain that that can be done logistically speaking, because it will move very quickly. But it would technically be possible, I believe. We'll have to see. Togeshi, if I fly to the USA on a low-ranked university in Iowa and apply for asylum in fear of persecution for being gay, am I doing yourself a favor or not? I don't answer asylum cases. I only focus on DV lottery. Togeshi, so good luck with that, whatever you decide to do. Ruben says, yeah, so I just talked about that. March is when we'll find out. Okay, let me scan down, see if there's any. I've talked about will all regions be current at DV 2021? It doesn't make sense that they will be, but who knows? Do you think AF28? Oh, we already talked about that. Okay. Charles gave a good shot. Why are you disappointed that Smith defended PP 10014? What do you think the lawyers for the government are going to do? Just walk into the hearing and say, yeah, you're right, it's a crappy decision, we'll take away PP 10014? Of course they got to defend it. Why are you surprised by that? Why are you disappointed by that? You do understand how the law works, right? I mean, you know, we have to believe in a legal system that has, for example, a murderer that, you know, if somebody murders someone in the middle of the street and we all see them do it, they're still entitled to be legally represented by a lawyer. And some poor schmuck of a lawyer has to represent that person, no matter how awful or evil they are, because that's their job. And without a proper legal system like that, then we might as well just hang people straight away for stealing an apple or something, because there's no law left, right? So we have to have people that argue both sides of the law, otherwise it's chaos. So don't be disappointed in Miss Smith. She was doing her job and she did it as well as she possibly could. Perhaps I believe she could have done it better, but that's her job, right? So please understand that. We're not some tin pot country that just doesn't have, the ability to defend our positions. We do. Right. So there is. This is a bit confusingly written, beautiful places, but the last point in here, I'm sure other people are wondering the same thing. So Biden has sent a bill to Congress that would increase the number of DV lottery visas from 55,000 to 80,000, but that will not affect DV 2020 or 21 or 22. It may affect DV 2023, but it's not even a law yet. It's just a bill. A bill means here's a suggestion for a new law. I mean, it's a bit more than a suggestion, but here's a new law that I would like us to debate and vote on, etc. It's got to go through both houses, and to be signed by the president later. It'll take a long time for that to happen. It's not a done deal. Okay. Simon Britton from Somalia. Is there a possible way for the new administration will reconsider? Okay, I already talked about that one. You have to wait, Frank. Let's see what happens in the next few days, right? See if we get PP 10014 removed. No, I don't think it's necessary to be part of any new lawsuit at the moment. Please don't join lawsuits right now. Doesn't make sense. I don't know if any are open, actually. But no, just wait. Samuel. Is there a possibility of some embassies opening in region? Would this happen? Yeah, some embassies will. There'll be different COVID effects in different countries, even next door, because of the way that the local governments have operated or are operating. And ultimately it will be a case-by-case decision. So some embassies will be open before others. Some embassies will do different sorts of work than others. So it may be that people have to transfer their cases around in order to get an interview. Okay, so if Charles Cook doesn't get class certification, and if Biden doesn't cancel PP 10014, would you suggest if we should join the lawsuit if Charles Cook open an Annunciato for other plaintiffs? That's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts, right? And I don't know that they would be adding other plaintiffs. But we'd have to see. I mean, you'd have to wait and see what happens. But let's just wait and see on that one. Okay, and hello to you too in Serbia. Okay, you studied in Russia, Hiva, for 2 years, then you came back to your own country. So it's necessary to get a police certificate of Russia. Problem is, I don't know how to get this. You don't know how to get this because you haven't read the instructions. There is a page. If you Google right now, just type in the words Google reciprocity page. And which you should have been able to find through the instructions that you've read, I'm sure, right? As a DV lottery case, it would have taken you there, and then you can look up that country, and it tells you exactly how to apply for a police certificate in each country you might have been in. There are some countries where you don't have to provide a police certificate, but I think in Russia, I think you do. When is the verdict? I don't know. Maybe a couple of weeks. Do you think they'll have enough time to process all DV 2021 cases when and if Biden lifts the Trump ban? Probably not, Tammy, no. I don't think they will. I think we're going to be running out of time. I've already explained that in several videos, but yeah, we're running out of time. What they should be doing right now is scheduling March interviews, right? So, that's March. That would give us March, April, May, June, July, August, September. That's 7 months. It's not enough time to do all of DV 2021 cases, particularly as there's also going to be, when they do actually start processing cases again and the COVID restrictions are released, there is a huge backlog at all the embassies of other cases, not just DV cases. So I've pointed this out to the lawyers. I pinged Chuck just before the Annunciato case this morning, and it did come up, this point of mission critical. In fact, the government's lawyer brought up my point. You know, we're in trouble, Tammy, because of the time we've got remaining, right? So we'll have to wait and see what happens. You've seen the KCC doc email. Is that good? Yeah, that's good. Doesn't mean you'll get current, but you'll have to wait and see, Kanani. Okay. Any chance? You have to wait and see. Do I foresee a further decrease in participation in DV 2022? Don't know. Let's say about 15 million. We'll have to wait and see. If Biden administration doesn't lift the ban, so how long will it take to have a favorite court win? Well, we're fighting for that now, so I don't know, Benjamin. We'll have to wait and see. Oh, I've got to show this comment. I'm an angel. Thank you, Nikki. I'm an angel for all that I do. I don't want to be an angel yet, but there you go. Thank you. Are the government lawyers themselves, or changed it after the government news? I don't know what that means. Do you mean, okay, so there were some resignations. So I think Curtis Morrison published some of the resignations from some of the legal team. So when the administration changes, yes, there can be a change of lawyers. And it could affect some of the cases we're working on. So we'll have to see. If the PCC is older than 6 months on the day of interview, no, you don't technically have to change it. They'll accept a police certificate up to 1 year old. Personally, I would change it, but you don't technically have to. So if it's easy enough to get a new police certificate, get it. You know, why not? Can I explain what preliminary injunctions, class certification, etc. means? Okay, two different terms there. Preliminary injunction. So there's TROs and preliminary injunctions. Basically, an injunction is an instruction telling someone to stop doing something. In this case, stop the bad behavior of not processing cases. A restraining order is similar. Preliminary injunctions, PIs, and temporary restraining orders both have slightly different standards, but achieve pretty much the same thing as far as we're concerned. They're just different sort of stages along the way. So both the TRO, temporary restraining order, and a PI, preliminary injunction, are both well, not immediate. They're both types of orders that will stop the behavior faster than waiting for the final court case. And so one of the, if you listen to the case today, they're talking about whether you're likely to succeed on the merits. So what they're saying there is, if the plaintiffs are likely to win their final case, then do we give them some help in the meantime so that they're not being harmed in the meantime? Because that clearly is the case right now. And that's why we need a PI or a TRO. So that's what that means. Class certification means I take a representative, let's say one person, it's more than one, but I'm just making the point. One person represents all of these other people, right? And so, you know, the one person I choose as a plaintiff is a representation of everybody else as a class. So in today's case, they've got some DV 2021 cases that they want to call a class to represent every other DV 2021 case that there is, right? So it's a powerful thing. It means that everybody can get some benefit from the judgment. The February visa bulletin, it's not good or bad, it's nonsense, really. Doesn't mean anything because we're not getting any interviews, so what's the point of discussing it? Bazette, I'm one of the DV 2021 winners in my passport, going to expire at the beginning of September. Right, so if you want to change your passport, you should do, actually, you should change your passport. Make sure you keep a copy of the old passport because you have to prove that you had that passport at the time of entry. change your passport, and you can either modify your DS-260 or you can just take the old and new passports to the interview. Your choice. Looks like an interesting question. Layla, how do you think why in other countries it is prohibited to travel if you're not a resident? Only allow the people who are resident, but duty fees are not allowed. Oh, right. Well, so you're saying, why is it okay to come in as a visitor and not with a DV visa or not with any immigrant visa? That was one of the points that Charles Cook made today. It's nonsense. It's ridiculous. And it's stupid. That's why we're arguing it. Rebecca silences complicity. Biden's been silent on PP 10014. Give him a break, Rebecca. It's the 22nd. He's been president for 2 days. Do you really think he can fix everything in 2 days? Trump spent 4 years screwing around with everybody, and we weren't silent. Nobody was silent. I wasn't silent. If you knew me personally, I certainly wasn't silent. But it takes time to unwind that. It's not that he's been silent on PP 10014. That's ridiculous. He's very, very busy, and he's only had 2 days, and he's 78 years old. Leave the man alone, for God's sake. Oh dear. I don't know whether you can ask for a humanitarian visa in Mexico. I have no idea what's involved in that. But just be a bit patient. I get it. You're in a bad position, Rebecca, but there's, blaming Biden because he hasn't managed to fix the whole world in 2 days is frankly ridiculous. Okay. And that's the nicest way I can put that. Renato, 30K, what do you think? Don't know. I think I've explained that in this video. There's another one in Mexico. Julie feels like she's moved to Mexico. It started to feel like I've moved here instead. Oh man, yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for 1 week's time as well. But we don't know for sure what Biden's going to do, but we'll see. After travel ban, can I go to the US and return back in a few days? Yep, yeah, you can. With the DV lottery visas, you can enter. You stay for a minimum of 5 minutes. I'm being silly. You can stay there's no minimum time, right? You can enter and you can leave straight away on the next plane. There's no problem in that. I think that DV visa is a resident visa, or am I wrong? A DV visa is an immigrant visa, yes. Yes, it's an immigration visa as opposed to a non-immigrant visa. Yeah, SA region seems to advance 30% of the cases. Is this a lot considering no? Yeah, it is. Like I said earlier, Ricardo, I was surprised that the VV numbers have moved as much as they have. There's no reason that they should have moved that way. Thank goodness they have for people who are doing adjustment of status. But there really isn't good reason why they've done that. Oh, look at that. I just want to show you that. That's my green card. I just happen to have it on my desk here. So overall, okay, last couple of questions. Overall, how do I access today's hearing? I thought it was very good. I thought Charles Cook did extremely well. I thought the government's lawyer, although she's a nice person, didn't argue well and didn't have very valuable arguments to make. There was no crushing argument. I thought the judge was attentive, listened well, asked some very good questions. Seems obviously he's a very smart guy and fair-minded. I thought it was very good. It was very good. Another one who's saying why they ignored us. So, come on, guys, come on. The visa bulletin shouldn't seem encouraging. That's not the purpose. If the judge will issue a nationwide injunction, what will happen next? Yeah. Yeah. They're still at risk, George. So are they still at risk for not everyone getting visas? Yes, they're still at risk because the one thing that the lawyer for the government did argue correctly, or did make a good point, was that the bans are not the only reason. I've tried to point this out for several months now. the bans are not the only reason that no interviews are happening, right? The reality is the embassies are closed. They're closed for safety reasons in some cases, not always, but in some cases. Now, to Charles Cook's point from today, they should by now have found out different ways to safely interview someone. Interview people behind screens, interview people through video conferencing, or just not even interview people, just look at the paperwork and issue the cases, whatever. Find some ways around it is what they should have done. But the reality is we don't have all the time left that we need. And so there is still risk. That's the point, George. There is risk. Okay. All right. So think about the last question. Recently, my sponsor moved to the newly bought house. My question is, should I mail KCC now? No, I would just change the address, Bishal, at the interview. There's no need to update your DS260 for every minor change, like a change of address. But do that at the interview. The address that you give in the DS260 actually isn't your sponsor. That's a common misconception that you've just repeated there. The address you give in the DS260 is where your green card will be sent. You can have a sponsor who lives at a different address than that. So it's not your sponsor necessarily. This is purely where you expect to have your green card sent. So you must make sure you update it prior to entering the States. And the last chance you'll get to update it will be as you enter the States at the POE. So if I were you, I would try and make certain you do it at the interview. If you think you're going to screw that up in some way, then yeah, let KCC know to unlock your form and do it now. Zach, last question then. I've already received 2NL from KCC. No, you didn't. You received a letter about your documents, Zach. It's not the 2NL. The 2NL is the interview notification, and you didn't get that, I promise you. I notified them I was filing AOS without filing DS260. Okay, so I'll read the next part of the sentence. So the AOS 2NL is simply a receipt saying, yeah, okay, thanks, you're doing AOS. In reality, you don't have to file the DS260 if you're doing AOS, right? Will you receive a new 2NL if you go back and complete the DS260? So why are you worrying about the DS260? Zach? Stop with the DS260 nonsense. If you're doing AOS, then you're on adjustment to status. You should be thinking about your I-485 package. It's not about the DS260. That's a good question, actually. Is there a recording? No, we were told we were not supposed to record that. They have a recording, but no, there's not a recording. I or others may have recorded the meeting, but purely to be able to take notes. But if I had done that, which I didn't, I'm sure, then I wouldn't be able to publish it. So because we were told not to do it, Nikki. But I did, or I might have allegedly recorded it. But I'm sorry, I can't share it. If I had recorded it, which I didn't. Do we get an email by post since I changed my? No, you don't get an email by post. Okay, so thanks, says Nikki. It's almost like instant interaction. Okay, everybody, we'll leave that on Nikki's profile picture there. All right, so I hope that was helpful to at least go through, talk about that. Please make sure you subscribe. I'm sure most of you must be because you instantly jumped on this video. But make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you following me on Twitter. I just started learning how to use Twitter recently. So make sure you're following me there. And I'll try and keep you updated with everything that I hear. Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks very much. Cheers now. Bye-bye.